Hi everybody, welcome back. In the last video I was talking about, debt collection and everything. And I have some further comments to make on that. For example, one thing, and there's a related video I was seeing on here on YouTube about this guy that lives in North Carolina that kept getting pestered by a collection agency in Pennsylvania, and it's a felony in North Carolina to, not have a license in North Carolina to be calling people in North Carolina to collect debt. Well, and in that video, for example, he was asking for them to verify that this debt was his. By law, and this is federal law, and if they say different, the debt collectors are lying to you. The debt collectors are supposed to produce evidence that this debt that they're trying to contact you over is not only A, legit, but B, it belongs to you. And if you put it in writing and send it by certified mail to say, prove to me that this debt belongs to me and not to, say, Jane Poe down the street, and they are to stop calling you for 30 days and produce paperwork and send it to you saying this is your debt, not Jane Poe's, for example. And they have to prove that yes, it was. For example, another thing is, as far as contacting friends and family goes, or neighbors, debt collectors are only allowed to contact your friends, family, or neighbors once, period. Having, like I mentioned before, being a debt collector, I can tell you unequivocally, for a fact, that's the truth. And, another thing, and I know somebody who's going through credit counseling right now as an example. I know for a fact this person, like, if they know they're going to run late, or like when the credit counselors are going to pull the check out, there's not money in the checking account to cover the funds for the credit counselors to pull the money out. Like, the person can call the credit counselors and say, hey, look, please don't take any money out of my account, because I'm not going to have money there to, cover it. The credit counselors will be like, okay, and say, send a money order in. They can do that. What it is, especially like I was mentioning in the last video, if you're a debtor and you need help with getting this paid off, you can put it through credit counseling. It could take anywhere from 2 to 5 years, depending on the size of the actual debt that you owe. Another thing is, as far as, making the credit counselors, or the credit collectors, quit harassing you. By law, if it gets to the point where they're harassing you like multiple times a day, and like say you've talked to them at like, they call it like 9 o'clock in the morning and you talk to them, they're not supposed to, like I mentioned before, call back. And like if they do, start recording the phone calls, so that way you can get this on tape, so you can take it to an attorney. And if it does get to the point where you've recorded the phone calls, for example, you've gotten an attorney, when you get the attorney and say these monkeys call you back, you tell them, okay, I'm being represented by Bob Smith, attorney. The instant you tell them this, they're supposed to take the hint and get the attorney's name and phone number from you. And at that point, they are no longer permitted to contact you. It's also true of credit counselors. They're not by law supposed to continue to contact you. Although I've known of creditors just basically be like, up yours, I'm calling you anyway. They're not by law supposed to. Even if they say different, by law they're not supposed to. Because like I said, I've done debt collecting before, so I've actually got the training so I can speak educated on this. One of my favorite tales that I heard when I was a debt collector is about Citi. And Citi's my favorite one to rip on because they're notoriously bad for this. Citi actually got sued for this and lost the case. This actually happened. What happened is Citi called some debtor somewhere on the East Coast. City told this debtor that the debtor won a car and, won a bunch of money and blah, 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 something, along those lines. Well, and that the person had to call some phone number for City to collect their winnings, but they didn't say that, this is, so-and-so from City, please call me. What happened is when the person called City up, found out it was City, the person, from what I remember, it was a guy, and the guy just basically ran City backwards through a meat grinder, and the guy ended up with a new car and a crap load of money, so it's like they cannot, and it is part of the federal law, and this trumps any state law any day, of course. The federal law plainly states they cannot misrepresent who they are to you. They can't say, well, I'm calling from Bob Summerall Tires, and needing to talk to somebody, when they're actually calling from, collection, XYZ collection company, so, and that's another thing. They cannot, under any circumstances, misrepresent who they are and what they're calling and, and what company they're calling from. My, parents had a phone call from a collector who was looking for somebody my mom and dad knew. This again was not me, and my parents told me about this, and I told them how to handle it. It's another person that I know, but the person that the collector was calling on had wrote some checks at a check cashing place, for example, and the people at the check cashing company were trying to collect on this, and they were calling my parents looking for this person. I'm not stupid enough to go to a check writing place, to do that, but this person apparently was. They were calling looking for the people from the collection side of the check writing place were calling looking for these people, and they're like, saying that, my parents had signed papers saying that they would pay this versus that, when they clearly didn't. They were just putting down as references. Well, my parents told me about this, and I set them straight. I said, if those people call back, rip them a new one. I was like, oh God, go on and rip them a new one, because one, you were put down as a reference. They're only permitted to call you once, period, unless they think that you have more updated information on it. And I said, they better pray to God I don't answer the phone while I'm at your house, because I will skin them alive and hand them their butts back on a plate. I'm going to pause here and expound on what happened in a following video, so hang on.